You're locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio. It's the show that helps you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. So regardless of where you are in your business or in your corporate environment, in your job, leading your nonprofit organization, or whatever it is that you have put your hand to right now, figuring out your leadership style and the skills needed to lead your team, lead your people, lead your organization, and lead yourself from where you are to where you want to be, critically important here in the times that we're living in. So I'm always eager to tap into the mind of those who are experts in leadership, and we've got one of those experts here with us today. I'm speaking with John Eades. He is the CEO of LearnLoft and the author of Building the Best, as well as the host of the Follow My Lead podcast. John, welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
I'm excited to be here, Ralph.
What got you interested in leadership? Tell us your background and a little bit about your journey to get to where you are now.
Of course. I went to work for a company called Sales Performance International. It was a global sales training firm. And I had never taken my education very seriously, even through college. It was always sports and athletics. And, it was my academic venture and education was always on the side. But when I saw what really great professional education looked like and what it did for people's careers, Ralph, everything changed. I couldn't get enough of it. But I didn't like the medium in which they would deploy their content, 4 and 5 day instructor-led training. And I have kids, and I just didn't think that was the future of education. So I took a risk, left the company to start my own online education business, learning technologies company to be exact. And we were about a year into building that business, and we were really struggling, Ralph. I mean, we were revenue was technology was tough. I mean, everything was a challenge. And I did what most young leaders do. I blamed somebody else. And so I
classic leadership wisdom right there. It's not my fault.
Yeah, that's right. And so I called one of my team members in my office at the end of the day. She didn't know what was coming. I let her go. And at the end of that meeting, she looked at me, Ralph, and she said, John, I didn't know what we were doing. I didn't know where we were going. And I didn't know how it was helping us get there. And if you've ever sat in that chair and you realize that the problem is not you, the problem is your team, it's a tough place to be. And I just realized that I failed my team from a leadership perspective. And I always thought I had this leadership DNA, so I didn't even really worry about it. But when I realized that I just failed them, I put my head in my hands after she left my office, and I cried like a baby, man.
Mm-hmm.
I hated it. I just couldn't stand it. And I decided right then that I was going to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen to other people. And so we spent the last 7 years studying what the best leaders do and transferring those lessons to help turn professionals into leaders and create healthier places to work.
I love that. The title of your book is Building the Best, 8 Proven Leadership Principles to Elevate Others to Success. Tell us a little bit about who this book is for and who your best prospect or your best client is that benefits from these principles.
Sure. So much like when that event happened, I didn't have the answers to what the best leaders did. We've studied about 40,000 organizational leaders now. We've interviewed 500 of the best leaders on the planet. And we put the collection of best practices and tools and ideas and principles into a book to help leaders really not do what I did. And so again, we partner with HR leaders or COOs of small to medium sized businesses to power their leadership development initiatives. Then we also have programs and academies to help individual managers or executives, entrepreneurs lead their companies and their teams better. So we help. Those would be our two main target audiences and who we help.
What is the biggest problem with leadership, and specifically, why does it seem like it's so difficult for people to lead or to know how to lead? Is it going back to what you said earlier, a problem with either not teaching it or teaching it in a way that is not conducive to learning? What do you think the challenge is there?
Well, I would say two things. The first is that leadership is really hard. So anytime you're talking about leading other human beings, being responsible for the results, navigating uncharted waters, and ultimately being the sole person responsible for all of those things that you have little control over, that's a tough job.
Yeah, it's kind of scary too, isn't it?
It's a scary thought. It really is. And that's why I love leaders that run towards it. That when you really think about it that way, of how difficult it is, and you're the person fully responsible for something that you have little control over, and people run towards it, I just want to give them a bear hug. So I think that's the first part of it, that leadership's really hard. The second problem that comes is that many people are promoted to quote unquote positions of leadership because they were good at their previous job, or because they might have shown some potential of leadership at some point, and then they're not really given the right training and development and support to help them be successful. And so I would think those two things at its core is, one, leadership's really hard, and then two, a lot of people are put in positions of leadership and not given the support and help that they need to be successful.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Now, on your website, you offer a free assessment where people can discover their leadership style. Walk us through those. Just give us the broad strokes of what those different leadership styles are, because I think one of the objections that people have is, well, I'm not a leader because I'm not like Tony Robbins, or I'm not like Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't have energy to spare, and that's not me. And so they tend to disqualify themselves unnecessarily, assuming that all leaders have the same style. Walk us through that matrix of the different kinds of leaderships. Styles.
Sure. Well, let's start with the definition of leadership before we get into the styles, because we've done, in all these interviews, if you go Google leadership, there's 40,000 different definitions. Yeah. So I think it's important to level set on what we mean by leadership. Someone whose actions inspire, empower, and serve in order to elevate others over an extended period of time. I'm going to say it again, and I'll do it slower. Someone whose actions inspire, and that word inspire means to breathe life into. To breathe life into. So often we leave work most days and our boss sucks the life right out of us, right? So we want leaders to do the opposite. We want to fill people up and encourage them and help them be the best version of themselves. The second is to empower. And that means, how do you help people make decisions where the information is, to take control of the decisions in front of them so they can be proactive and help us in a manner that isn't sitting back waiting for something to happen to them. And then number three, which is to serve, to flip that power pyramid upside down and to realize that leaders actually work for their people and not the other way around. And so when leaders inspire and they empower and they serve, they're on their way to elevating others. And that's the key to successful leadership today.
That's a great definition. I would venture to say that's probably the best I've ever heard out of the 40,000 or so that are out there.
Well, I appreciate that, but it's not easy to live it out. And that's the interesting part. So that's why it's so important that people understand what their leadership style is. In these 40,000 assessments that we've done of leaders, one of the things that we uncovered is that the very best leaders use both high levels of love and discipline in the way that they lead. And they use them together at high levels. And so in our research, we uncovered these 5 styles. Someone whose style is to use high discipline, low love would be the style of the rule style of leadership. Someone that really relies on my way or the highway, heavy on standards, heavy on discipline. Again, not necessarily a bad leader. You just probably want to stay with them for a really long time. Wear you down pretty quickly.
Kind of like General Patton, right? I mean,
a military guy from the mid '60s would be a good example.
I mean, I would probably follow him into battle, but do I want to work with him 8 hours a day at my nonprofit? Probably not.
Probably not. That's right. Someone whose style is low in love, low in discipline, what we call the managed style of leadership. No one's going to really work. They're going to work for them. It's like, I have to do it. Doesn't mean they're a terrible leader, just not a really, kind of only in it for themselves. Probably shouldn't even be in a leadership position in the first place. Someone whose leadership style is high in love, low in discipline is the please style of leadership. This style of leadership typically doesn't like confrontation or difficult conversations, tends to let things slide just to keep the calm or keep the peace. And then that leadership style in the middle is what we call the support style of leadership. Good, just not great leader. And then the upper right-hand quadrant is what we call the elevate style of leadership. And you could pretty much plug someone with that style of leadership into a multitude of different leadership situations, and over time they would be successful. And now here's why these styles are important. This is not a Myers-Briggs or a personality profile that says just because you're this way today, you're that way forever.
Right.
Leadership is a journey and not a destination, Ralph. And so that means we can grow and we can get better and we can improve. And that also means that we can get worse. I mean, I'm in the midst of something, right? It sounds bad because I teach this stuff, Ralph. I'm in the midst of something right now where I'm really struggling. I've slipped into a couple bad habits and patterns of thinking about myself too much, or, getting an ego a little bit too much into the equation. And it's hurt the way I'm leading at home with my spouse and my kids. It's hurt some relationships in the workplace. So it just goes to show you that even someone that teaches this stuff fails and struggles at it daily. And I say that with complete humility because I'm working to get better just like everybody else is. And so I hope those styles will help you think about, your listeners, to think about, how am I leading today? Which style am I leading like? And then what could I leverage more or do more to get to that elevate style of leadership? Because we know the kind of improvements that happen when leaders are leading that way.
I love that. And you said so many things that are really important. I love the level of honesty and whatever failures or shortcomings you may have experienced in your life, John, you've been able to take those things and use them and improve. And what a lesson that is for all of us, that we're going to make mistakes along the way, but we can improve. Of course, we can get worse. And so that was another key distinction, is leaders are not born, they're made. And we can become better leaders. We can become worse leaders. And I guess the key thing is awareness and having that 360 feedback loop. How you think about your leadership is not as important as how other people view you as a leader. So we can think we're the greatest thing since sliced bread, but the people working under us or working for us or with us, they're thinking, you need some help.
That's exactly right. And there's one of my favorite sayings of all time, Ralph, is failure is not final. Failure is feedback. So the only way that you actually fail here is if you quit, if you give up, if you don't admit the mistakes and you keep making them. So I think that's where the humility comes in for our leaders, and the self-awareness that's required is to say, what am I doing wrong? What can I do better? And how can I lead better moving forward? Because no one expects you to be perfect. I mean, they're watching you if you're in a position of leadership, like a hawk, don't get me wrong, but you're not going to be perfect. I mean, and so having the self-awareness to admit that I've made some mistakes, I'm working on getting better. People respect that so much more than someone that digs their heels in and says, I'm never wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody likes that.
Yeah, well,
So,
once you do that, you open yourself up to all kinds of people wanting to prove that you are in fact fallible and you do in fact make mistakes, and so you're setting yourself up for a lot of unnecessary drama. The other thing I like about what you said, as we're talking about leadership styles, that this is really, it has very little to do with your personality type. So you mentioned Myers-Briggs. And there's lots of different personality profiles out there, but you can be a good leader. You can be in the elevate quadrant of your leadership style matrix here, regardless of your personality. Your personality doesn't have to be Tony Robbins or who's
Gary Vaynerchuk. That's
there
right.
you go.
I mean, you can be introvert, you can be extrovert. I mean, we've done thousands and thousands of these assessments and reports, and it is amazing to see the differences. And some are extroverts, some are high energy, some are more calm and laid back. There's not only one way to lead. There's not. The key takeaway here is that each of us can be a leader. Each of us can inspire and empower and serve in order to elevate others. And sometimes that just might take some time, energy, and effort and work to get better. Are you going to go on to be the greatest leader of all time? That I don't know. I mean, there was a great study done by Leadership Quarterly, and what they found, Ralph, was that 26% of us, from a leadership perspective, is DNA, 76% is learned. Right. So when you break it down that way, yes, if you're going to go be one of the greatest leaders of all time, you better have some DNA, but I don't have a way to tell you if you've got that. I do know that we all can get better, and striving to learn and grow and step into the leader that we can be and that we're meant to be. Our world needs leaders like that. And we don't need people sitting on the sidelines. We need people in the fire, being the man in the arena. We need people helping to elevate others on an everyday basis. Look, you could go move to the beach and live in your own little bubble, but I love people that get involved and try to make a positive impact on those that they get the opportunity to lead, because those are the ones that leave a legacy that lasts a long time.
We are in such a weird moment right now with pandemic going on and lockdown and all kinds of challenges in our political system, in our social justice system. Lots of difficulties, lots of challenges. Now more than ever, we need to have leaders. We need to develop these leadership skills. And, one of the complaints here recently is that there's a lack of leaders. There's a lack of leadership and lots of people trying to find a leader. What can we do to become better leaders, starting right now, to take advantage in a positive way of what's going on and be able to take people from where they are to where they want to be? Is there some suggestions or some tips that you can give us?
Well, there's something I love. It says that at the bottom level would be knowledge, right? So if we're going to get better and we're going to develop leaders, we certainly need to acquire some level of knowledge about leadership and how to lead and the skills required and some base level knowledge. And then above knowledge, you have comprehension. So the knowledge might get transferred to your head, but can you actually comprehend it? Oftentimes we need someone to help us to do that. A teacher, a mentor, experience can be a great way to comprehend things. But what we're ultimately after in order to develop more leaders is to get to some level of application or wisdom. And unfortunately, that takes time. I think one of the things today is we want leaders like right now. We want everybody to be ready to go in the instant. And that's not the way it really works. It's a journey, and having the patience to say, I'm on a journey of leadership, and I could be leading my family during this time. I could be leading my small community. I could be leading my nonprofit. I could be leading my church. I could be leading my business, my team, whatever it may be. And I'm on a journey, and I'm going to be patient with myself, and I'm going to put in the work every single day. There's something we teach in our workshop called Growth 20. And the whole idea behind Growth 20 is, can you commit to 20 minutes a day to grow your mind and your skills? Whether that be listening to a podcast like this, reading a book, meeting with a mentor, having a coaching session. Can you do 20 minutes a day to grow yourself? Like making the deposit into the bank, right? And I think that's where it starts. I think it starts with action, not words. And it's going to require people that make the choice, Ralph, that we need better leaders today. And I'm going to step into that role, and I'm going to put in the work, and I'm going to be patient with my development. And I know that's not the sexy answer. I know we just want, some people say, I want Donald Trump out of here. And the next person says, I want Donald Trump to stay forever. Okay. So whatever side of the fence that you sit on the political aisle is irrelevant to me. What's relevant to me is that each person listening makes the choice that I can step into being the best leader I can be. And I'm going to put in the 20 minutes every single day to put that deposit in so I can get better at leading wherever I'm going to lead.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And I think, I've heard a lot of people complain about either the leaders that we have or the leaders that we don't have. And it's like they're waiting for someone to take leadership. But I think you've got to get into your head this idea that the leaders aren't coming. You're it. You are the leader. and then begin to expand.
I don't mean to interrupt.
Just expand your circle of influence out from there. If you are leading in your home, in your community, in your neighborhood, do what you can do where you are. And if we would all just take that level of responsibility, we would see improvement. But you're right. It is a journey, and it is going to take time. And the type of leader that can come in with all the answers and solve all of our problems for us while we are passive receptacles of their charisma and their solutions is just kind of far-fetched.
That's right. I mean, but look at what the world, the media, social media, there's a comment box for everything, right? From every YouTube video to every blog post, to every Instagram post, you can comment and critique and criticize. Mm-hmm. So in some ways, we're being trained to be agents of criticism versus the creators of what we want and what we believe is correct and how we want to live. I had the old governor of North Carolina, Pat McCrory, on the show, and he said something to me I'll never forget. He said, John, if not you, then who? And I thought, it's exactly what you were just saying, Ralph. If not you, then who? Like, you can criticize, you can sit back and complain, or you can say, how can I be part of the solution?
That's perfect. That just sums it up. Now, someone who's listening to this and they have enough self-awareness to realize I need some help. I need some improvement in my skill. I need that base of knowledge. You've got actual courses on this website here, LearnLoft.com. Tell us a little bit about your online courses, what's available there, and how people can access that.
Sure. The easiest way is to go get a copy of Building the Best. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. The Building Best it's if you're leading a team of people, it's the best way I know how. So if you're looking for a really cost-effective way to upskill the way you lead your people, I can't encourage it enough. It's pretty neat that so many great leaders have poured into me that I get the opportunity to share that message. So it's a fantastic resource. There's some resources on LearnLoft.com, some courses to help yourself or to help you lead your team better. So many leaders are in leading remote teams now, and that's a big change. So yeah, LearnLoft.com is a great place to go get access to some courses and some support. There's blogs and podcasts and all kinds of stuff to help people on their leadership journey.
Excellent. And I think those resources are really, really timely. So if you're in that position and you are interested in finding out more, go to LearnLoft.com to see that book, Building the Best by John Eades, as well as the online courses that they have available to make you a better leader. And if not you, then who? And if not now, then when, right?
You got it, Ralph.
So John, I appreciate your sharing your wisdom with us. Any final thoughts or takeaway you want to leave us with?
I would just say one of my favorite Latin phrases of all time, Ralph, it's called nunc cepi. Nunc cepi. And what it means is now I begin. And I love it because I don't really care what you were doing yesterday. Just like my leadership failure at home the last few weeks, like I can harp on the failure that I've had and the ego that I've let come into the mix, or, but the only thing I control is what I'm going to do moving forward. Mm-hmm. And I would encourage anybody listening, if you've made some mistakes, if you're unhappy with some of the stuff that the choices that you've been making, nunc cepi. Now I begin. Like, start anew right now. We need leaders like you. Your families need leaders like you. Your nonprofits need leaders like you. Your organizations need leaders like you. And it starts with people making the choice that I'm going to go be a better leader today. And I hope that you'll think about nunc cepi, and now I begin.
Catchy phrase there, and great words of wisdom from John Eades. He is the CEO of LearnLoft. He's the author of Building the Best, and he is the host of Follow My Lead podcast. You can find out more at LearnLoft.com, and we'll have that link on the Rebelpreneur website as well. John, thank you so much for being on Rebelpreneur Radio today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at Rebelpreneur.com.